The story behind World War I cemeteries. Earlier in the year I went on a trip. It was a battlefield trip to France and Belgium. I went with my teacher, a historian, soldier, and a load of other people on a coach. We travelled under the Channel into France. We then went on to Belgium. We visited battlefields, museums, cemeteries, all about World War I. But first, how did World War I start? World War I started after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. News of the death spread to the corners of Europe, sparking tension. It wasn't long before countries started declaring war. Soon it spread all over Europe. Only a few countries didn't declare war. Good old Swiss. Like dominoes, all the countries began to get ready for a fight. Two fronts were created, the Western and Eastern Front. I'll only be covering the Western Front because that's where I went. Sorry, Russia, you did a good job, buddy. Almost all of this war was fought in dirty, wet trenches. Troops would march to the enemy's trench and try to take it over. Both sides would do this until they took the trench, usually moving forward a mile or so. This method of marching into gunfire resulted in a huge amount of deaths on both sides. Over 17 million deaths, including 7 million civilians, and over 20 million wounded. Fabian Ware was the creator of the Imperial War Graves Commission. He took it upon himself to create the IWGC after realizing mistakes in the current system that ended up with missing graves and records. The Imperial War Graves Commission recorded details of men and women who died in the fighting, as well as designing cemeteries and memorials. The Commission agreed on 4 key rules. Each of the war dead should be commemorated by a name on a headstone or memorial. Headstones and memorials should be permanent. Headstones should all be the same. There should be no distinction made on account of military or civil rank, race or creed. These rules are visible to this day in every IWGC cemetery. The graves are designed to look like soldiers on parade. It's so hard to imagine the size unless you've seen it, so these cemeteries are huge, the largest being Tuincourt in Belgium. It has over 12,000 burials from over 5 different countries. These cemeteries have several features. One of the main features is the Cross of Sacrifice. The Cross of Sacrifice is the centre of the cemetery because it is a sign of Christianity, the main religion in many of these cemeteries. The cross was designed by Sir Reginald Bloomfield and is meant to show all sides of Christianity. The cross has a downward pointing bronze sword, inspired by Boran in his home. Some cemeteries don't have a cross because there isn't enough space or the dead aren't mainly Christian. Another key feature is the Stone of Remembrance. The Stone of Remembrance is designed to commemorate the non-Christians. The Stone of Remembrance is designed by Sir Edwin Luton. The writing was suggested by poet Rudyard Kipling. The writing reads, "Their name liveth forevermore," which means that they will never be forgotten. The smallest, in many ways the biggest and most important feature are the headstones. Thousands of these headstones fill every cemetery. Each one represents a soldier, even if the person is unknown. Each are designed to be the same, but each country has a different design. Some headstones are closer together than others. This is because two or more bodies were found close together and mixed up, usually because a shell exploded and it got quite messy. This gives you an idea of how they died. They can be found in huge groups. Every headstone has the same layout. Regimental badge, rank, name, post-nominals, regiment serving at death, date of death, age, religious symbol, and a personal inscription. Every headstone has a regimental badge and regiment serving at death. A regiment is a unit in the army commanded by a lieutenant colonel and is usually divided into 3 battalions made up of 4 companies each, which have around 200 men in it. Regiments were more like advertising. Since they were groups from a certain area, it made the men feel as if it was their responsibility and that they would be fighting in friends. The religious symbol is displayed on all graves. Even if unnamed, a cross will be on it. A cool fact is that Jewish graves sometimes have stones placed on top, similar to the way we put flowers down. Jewish people believe that living and dead things shouldn't mix. Not all graves have a cross though. If a cross is in their regimental badge or an award, that would be displayed instead. Post-nominals, or letters after the name in basic English, are letters placed after the name representing a military award. The MC represents that this soldier was awarded the military cross. All families were offered the choice of a personal message, which was paid for by the family. Some were short and sweet. Others are long and touching. Not every soldier's body was found. If it wasn't, their name was put on a memorial. Thousands and thousands of names are on memorials across Europe. The biggest is Tietval, and is for the missing of the Somme. It has over 70,000 names. These cemeteries and memorials are so important. Not just because they help us remember, like the poppy, but because they are visible examples of what happened, a representation of the unimaginable numbers of dead. And they give each soldier what they deserve after fighting to protect our world: representation, respect, and remembrance. Lest we forget.